Welcome to another episode of Stanley Beat Obesity, and you can too. Join host Stanley Bronstein and his co-host Deb Anderson as they discuss all things related to beating obesity and what it takes to live a healthy lifestyle. Stanley is the founder of the Million Pound Weight Loss Challenge and the creator of the Way of Excellence, a personal development system he used to lose more than 220 pounds and to keep it off, all without drugs or surgery. Deb is a master life and leadership coach and a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. Here's your hosts, Stanley and Deb.
Hi, I'm Stanley Bronstein, and this is my co-host, Deb Anderson, and here we are. Today, we're going to talk about Healthy Eating 101. Deb, I know you are very concerned not only about healthy eating for yourselves as individuals, you're concerned about family, how the family can eat. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what your thoughts are when you hear the phrase Healthy Eating 101?
Yeah. First of all, I love to eat healthy personally. Families can get complicated, especially if one adult in the family wants to eat healthy and the other one is not so invested or not so motivated to eat healthy.
That never happens, does it?
Oh, I mean, it happens all the time. In fact, my clients come to me with that issue quite often. But the bottom line is, anyone can eat healthy no matter what everyone else around them is doing. It might take, go ahead.
No, it's, as I learned that in the very beginning, we are each responsible for what goes in our mouths. And people bring all kinds of food over my house and eat in front of me, and I don't let that stop me.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I don't know. I mean, here's the thing. In America, with the standard American diet, there's not a lot out there that's actually good for our bodies. And once we start educating ourselves, or what does our body actually need? What do we actually thrive on? And we start looking around for it. It's at the grocery store, on the perimeter of the grocery store. It's not in the middle aisles, and it's not at most restaurants.
Why is that?
What's that?
Why is that?
Why is that? Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing question. And I think the answer is because, well, okay. Did you know that we have a profession out there? We have food scientists whose sole job is to engineer foods for large companies, to make them palatable, to make them addictive, to make them so that you just can't put them down. Like chips is a perfect example.
But you can't eat just one.
Well, yeah. And then they challenge you with that, right?
Yes.
Right? It's kind of crazy, actually, if you think about it. But none of these foods are made like in nature by God. Like think about like a potato that comes out of the ground, or a carrot, or an apple on a tree, or a stalk of broccoli, or a melon on a vine. Those are the foods that we actually want to be loading into our bodies. So when I say healthy eating, I mean whole plant foods, whole food, plant-based. And when I work with my clients, I teach an 80-20 rule. Because here's the thing. First of all, I want to get completely away from any quote unquote diet, any diet terminology, any certain diet. What we want to do is load in things like fruits, vegetables, whole intact grains, berries, nuts, seeds, dark leafy greens, starchy vegetables like potatoes, carrots, all of those vegetables. We want to get in all the color that we can, and we want to leave everything else aside. Now, is that realistic? I don't know. I want to make this doable for real people in real life. So like I said, I teach an 80-20 rule, 80% whole plant foods that maybe don't even need a label because you know what they are just by looking at them. Think broccoli, think avocado, think pear, right?
Hmm.
And then 20%, yeah, bring in some chips and salsa. Not a big deal, right? Have
Let me ask you. That when I started out on my journey, I wasn't even 80/20. I mean, I started out, I decided I was going to not eat red meat
Mhm.
and I was not going to drink alcohol because I had wanted to start exercising. And I figured out that drinking alcohol the night before didn't make me want to get up early in the morning to go exercise.
Right.
So I decided to do that. Then after, a couple of years, I went vegetarian. I stopped eating
Yeah.
chicken and turkey. I had lived on chicken and turkey. I ate so much of that, it's really just a ton of it. And I stopped doing that. And I did that for years and years and years. And then finally, somewhere along the way, I went all in and I went totally whole foods plant-based, where for me, that was eliminating the things that a lot of people would really love, like cheese and butter and oils and things like, and ice cream. I was eating,
Yeah.
I was eating ice cream, but it was a sugar-free ice cream, but it was still ice cream.
Yeah.
But there are so many other, what I've learned is there's so many other things that we can eat that you swap out for those things that, and a lot of it is, it's in our heads. We grow up eating these things and we grow up loving these things.
Yeah.
And we feel like we're giving something up. And the funny thing is there's so many other things waiting out there for us to discover.
Oh my gosh,
But
Stanley, that is such a good point.
go ahead.
I teach around this and I call it food focused versus life focused, right? And in America, we have this food culture almost where we're focused on what, say again?
Not almost. We do have a food culture. It's everywhere.
It is everywhere. And we're thinking about our next meal or where we're going to go out to eat or what are we going to, what dessert are we going to make or what have you. And it's not that you can't have some of that. You absolutely can. But you mentioned a couple of things like dairy, right? The milk, the ice cream.
Cheese.
Dairy is addictive because of the milk sugars. And I mean, there's so many alternatives now. I think that's the good news. There are so many plant-based milks out there that are just, I think, as delicious that we can sub that out and not even miss it. Ice cream, yeah, there's some plant-based ice creams as well. There's also amazing berries that you can make a sorbet out of, right? Like,
yeah, I don't even eat any of those alternative ice creams or anything. I've just learned, did you know you can take ripe bananas and throw them in the food processor and blend them all up and they taste like banana ice cream. That they turn liquid. And if you want, throw some raw almonds in there and it gets nice and chunky. And I even sometimes will throw dates in there and that it's all really good. And the funny thing is, it's all delicious. I mean, I'll give you an example. One of my neighbors, a couple of houses down, I was telling her about how every morning for breakfast, I eat a pudding that's chia seeds, hemp seeds, and flax seeds with soy milk. And I was telling it to her because she was telling me she's iron deficient. And I was telling her this would be a really good way for her to start out getting a lot of iron in her diet because all those things are very high in iron. She told me that she made that pudding and she gave some of it to her 2-year-old. And do you know what the first thing her 2-year-old said when he tasted that? He said, "Ice cream." He thought it was ice cream.
Okay. Amazing. I mean, if the kid will eat it because he thinks it's ice cream, feed it to him. I mean,
And yeah, it's a lot healthier.
right. Exactly.
And now she says she eats it every morning now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of ripe bananas. I actually like my bananas with a little bit of green on them. When they get too ripe, that's when the kids eat them. And then when they get really, really brown and stuff, that's when we put them in banana bread.
I love them when they're almost dead.
Oh, that,
that's what
you know what?
it's personal preference. Yeah,
That's actually a great point, Stanley. That is an amazing sweetener. Like use that
absolutely.
instead of sugar, right? And I love that you mentioned the dates. I'm a huge fan of dates. I love
Oh,
dates.
eat them every day.
Yeah, that's a whole food source of amazing sweetness, right?
But let me ask you, they tell us sugar is bad for us. Why is it sugar that's in a dessert is bad, but dates are okay? Is there a difference between the sugar that's in a soft drink or in a dessert versus the sugar that's in dates or bananas or other fruit? What's the difference?
It's a great question, Stanley. And absolutely, there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between powdered pulverized sugar that's been added to a soft drink or a cake, refined sugar, processed sugar. Like maybe it started out as sugar cane, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
it was pulverized in a machine and it was made into either a powder or granulated, right? We'll have granulated sugar, right? And then it's baked into, cookies or whatever you have there. There's a huge difference between that and dates, which are just dried whole fruits.
Our body
Now,
processes them differently, correct?
completely differently, because
Slow.
the
The
dates
dates are slower, I
still
believe.
has the fiber in it. The dates still
Yeah.
have the fiber in it, and the fiber in the whole fruit is what slows down the body and the blood from uptaking that sugar. When you combine, when you have something like sugar or flour that has the surface area has been like exponentially increased, when that hits your bloodstream, it spikes your blood sugar. And that is not good for our system. That's why we always want to consume a whole food source. Now, you can take dates and you can chop them up and you can add them to your baked goods, or you can puree a banana or use applesauce and put
Do it
that
all
in
the
your
time.
baked goods. What's that?
I do it all the time.
Yeah. And that's a healthy way to add sweetness to anything that you're making.
You know what I tell people who've never had dates? They ask me what dates taste like. When I munch on a
Mm.
date, it tastes like a donut.
Mm.
It really, that's how good it is.
Mm.
And not only that, I take the dates and I make homemade almond butter with pecan chunks. Homemade almond butter with pecan chunks, and I dip the dates in that.
Mm.
I actually I made a bunch of that, and I gave some of it to my dentist's office
Okay.
a month or two ago, and I asked them what they thought about it, and they said they fought over it. That's how much they
Ha.
liked it. You know, it was that good.
Yeah. I mean,
So I have to make them more the next time I go back.
there are so many amazing recipes out there right now for Whole Foods. What's coming to mind is you can make date balls, right? Like you get the dates and maybe some cocoa powder if you want them chocolate, and some coconut and some nuts like almonds or even pecans, and you put it in the
Cashews.
blender.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put it in the blender and it starts firming up, and then you just make balls out of it, and delicious.
Yeah.
Absolutely delicious and satisfying and filling because of the fiber involved,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And your body can handle it.
I wanted
So
to talk. Okay,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. Well, I wanted
No.
to talk about beans real fast here because
Yeah.
I think beans are an amazing whole food source of protein. And I just wanted to introduce people to the idea that if you haven't been eating a lot of beans, you can start eating beans, and you want to start slowly, especially because of the fiber. And we don't want to stop everyone up and make them uncomfortable. So whenever you're introducing a new food, a new vegetable, you might want to start slowly and just have a little bit to begin with, like beans. If we wanted to start with lentils, which are amazing and they cook really fast and you don't need to soak them overnight, you can start literally with just a tablespoon of cooked lentils and go from there. You want to increase by maybe a teaspoon every 3 or 4 days and just start introducing it slowly. And what that does is it gives your gut time to get used to it, time to grow the good gut bacteria.
It changes your microbiome in your gut.
Yeah. Your good gut bacteria is actually going to eat the fiber in those beans, benefit from it, and then you'll benefit from it.
And I know everything you're talking about. I eat beans every day.
Mm-hmm.
I eat lentils every day.
Yeah,
and
I got some in my fridge right now.
Yeah, I do too. And one of the benefits, and we're going to do other cooking classes, but one of the benefits I see is gives me energy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, tremendous amounts of energy. I mean, I'm 63 years old and I didn't have this much energy when I was 25.
Yeah. Another benefit of lentils in particular, they call it the second meal effect. So what ends up happening when you start eating whole plant foods and you start bringing in the fiber is that you no longer experience these sugar highs and sugar lows that maybe many people. Yeah, you're a lot more stable. And you'll know when you're a lot more stable when you can basically forget about a meal. Oh, I forgot it was lunchtime. And now I'm past my lunchtime. I guess I better have lunch. That's how you know that your blood sugar is more stable. You're not feeling the crashes. You're not feeling starving all the time.
You don't have the cravings.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have the cravings and you don't
get hangry.
You don't have
get
those
hangry.
shakes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's where you want to live. That's where you want to be. Because that's when your body is actually burning. Yeah. And your body has a chance to burn its own fat and use that as a fuel source versus whatever you're eating.
Yeah.
That's the best way, honestly, to lose weight. When we eat low calorie density foods, which are vegetables, beans, whole grains, even pasta. Because if you think about pasta, pasta is dried, right? And then you want whole grain pasta. And then when we cook it, we add a whole bunch of water. So the volume of it expands greatly. So it's a low calorie dense food. And I think we'll talk about that in another video. But the bottom line is if we can eat low on the calorie density scale here and load in the potatoes, beans, rice, fruits, vegetables, etc., then our body, we actually eat less calories than our body needs, and our body takes the extra calories from the fat we already have.
Can I raise one more point about what you just said? Something totally unrelated.
Absolutely.
All the things you just described are less expensive at the grocery store. I mean,
this is true.
I mean, I know when COVID hit and all the prices started going up, and up, there was a new and meat prices started going way up. You know, people would comment to me about everything was going up, and I would tell them about what I was eating. And I said, it's still less expensive than meat, less expensive than meat, less expensive than meat. It's, I mean, I eat plenty, and I probably personally spend maybe $10 a day on my food.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. The other amazing thing about this, I mean, and I think we talked about eggs, the price of eggs the other day, and those are going up, right? Like we don't actually need eggs. Adults don't actually need eggs, right? I guess I just lost my train of thought, but we were talking about.
Do kids need to eat eggs?
You know, here's the thing. I don't actually think that anyone needs to eat eggs. Do my kids eat eggs? Yes. I cook eggs for my kids every once in a while, but it's not a staple. Here's the thing to know about eggs. If you have allergies, one of the first things to cut out is eggs because they're so high on the list of things that people are allergic to. They can be packed with protein, but they're also packed with saturated fat. So
There's other ways to get protein though, aren't there?
there's a million other ways. But like I said, 80-20. If you want to have a couple eggs every once in a while, go for it. I'm not I'm not keeping eggs away from anyone. I
Guy,
personally don't eat them.
guys, just so you know, as we go through all these videos, Deb is 80-20, 80-20. Just so you know where I stand, and this is me after 14 years down the line. I'm 100-0. But
Okay.
that's me,
Yeah.
that's me personally. I'm just telling you that you don't need to do that. Our listeners don't need to do that.
Yeah.
They can choose to do that if they want to. And I didn't choose to do it until I was like 9 years down the line. It took me that long before I decided to go all in.
Yeah.
So it's not, you
It's
don't
a
have to
great
do it.
it's a great point, Stanley. Like it took you like 9 years, right? Like, and
Mhm.
my journey is probably about gosh, I lose count, but like 14 years, right? And I think that's the way to do it to ease your way in. Although I do
No,
know some people,
I agree with you on that. Yes, go ahead.
yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing, like no one is wrong here because there are some cold turkey people out there. Like I mean, I can relate some stories, someone got a diagnosis and then boom, that was it.
Well,
They're
that's
done.
different. If you just want to improve your health, you can ease into it. If you get a cancer diagnosis or you just had a heart attack or something, then you might want to consider, going all in.
Yeah.
It all depends on the situation. But like you said, there's no right answer. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's right. That's one of the things Deb and I talk about a lot and will talk about is structuring a program that works for you. Deb is going to tell you what works for her. I'm going to tell you what works for me. Deb is going to tell you what's worked for many of her clients. I'm going to tell you what's worked for many of my clients. But the most important thing is that you take the tools that we give you and you take the system that we give you and you apply it to your own situation and you figure out what works for you. And then, even more importantly, you actually do it.
Yeah. You know what? What's the best vegetable to eat? It's the
The one
one
you'll
you
eat.
will eat. Yes, absolutely. If you love broccoli, load up on broccoli. I highly recommend frozen veggies. So you can keep them in the freezer and you don't end up with a lot of food waste,
See,
right?
whereas
And
I like fresh ones.
okay.
I will eat frozen ones, and
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with frozen ones, but I like them when they're fresh.
Yeah.
But it all depends.
Here's the thing, fresh and in season, bring it. I I,
Yeah.
I love a combination, right? Like, and I'll always use my fresh first. I mean, I don't shop as often as maybe Stanley does, right? So maybe I do like a big shopping once a week.
Newsflash. Maybe Stanley's wife does, but anyway, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well,
She
and
does most. She does most of the shopping. But
uh,
anyway,
amazing. You're so lucky, right? Like
yes, I
sometimes
am.
it's just me here. My husband's traveling for work and I've got the kids and their schedule and my work schedule and juggling everything. So I do a big shopping once a week. I get half fresh, half frozen. And that's what works for me. But Stanley is so right. We intend to work with you wherever you're at and take you wherever you want to go. And we have amazing tools.
Help you take yourself wherever it is you want to go. Can
Yeah,
I ask you a question? Can we jump to a different thing?
absolutely.
I'm gonna throw out that word that everybody hears. Okay, let's discuss a couple of things. First of all, what is the difference between what you're advocating and vegan? People
Mm,
hear vegan and they think, what's the difference between you threw out the term whole foods plant-based.
yeah.
And that's what I am, whole food plant-based. What is the difference between that and vegan?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually have an article about that maybe we can link to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but okay, so basically, soda is vegan. There's no animal products in soda, right?
Mm-hmm.
But soda is not whole food plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
All that whole food plant-based means is that it's a whole food, like
Not processed, unprocessed.
unprocessed. And it's a lot of the ones that I just mentioned, starchy veggies, non-starchy veggies, dark leafy greens, herbs, spices, plants. We're talking about plants, whole plant foods. Now, spices have been ground. They're still from the whole food.
They haven't been, they're ground, but they're not processed.
Right. They've just been
Change the shape. It's like you chop up a vegetable, same thing.
exactly. You're so good at this, Stanley. So vegan you could have a vegan donut, but a vegan donut is not a whole plant food.
No,
right?
but you can eat a date and it tastes like a donut. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. And a date is, right? It's got a pit in there, right?
Yes.
So I think we can use a little common sense and apply it here. And you can see how vegan foods that don't have any animal products in them, not even honey from bees, right? Can be highly processed. You can have vegan chips. You can have all the processed
Vegan
foods.
sausages. And a lot of those foods, they add sodium to them.
So much sodium, way more sodium than even the animal counterpart.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're going for a taste, right? And so here's the thing, an apple.
Yeah, they're trying to get us addicted to it. Yeah, they're going for a taste. Yeah. Apple.
Yeah, exactly. An apple is vegan and it's also a whole plant food, right?
Mm-hmm.
A vegan donut is vegan, but it's not a whole plant food. I hope that's as simple as it can be.
You raise a good point and you kind of explained it. And the whole point is to learn to think about what you are eating before you put it in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, is becoming consciously aware. Next week when we talk, we're going to be talking about how to go about this. We're going to be talking about how to establish what we call an attack plan. You need an attack plan to go after this. Deb has a military background, so when I threw out the words attack plan, your eyes kind of lit up, and that was kind of good. So, and the first step on that is awareness. What are you doing? What's going on? Learn to read the labels. Learn to know.
Oh, Stanley, we could do a whole class on label reading.
We're going to do more than one, probably.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Okay. So parting thought here. This is the last thought I want to just leave people with, maybe to get them ready for our attack plan, right?
Yes.
Your cells, all the cells in your body are made out of what you give them, meaning what you put in your mouth, what you put in your system. It's also, what you put on your skin, right? Because our skin is an organ. It's our largest organ, actually.
And I also say it's what you put in your mind too. It's everything.
You know what? That's actually true, because our stress hormones affect our cells. Great point, Stanley. Anyway, so if we want to think about this as we sit down to a meal and every bite being what our body has to work with to create our next batch of new cells, do you want the broccoli or do you want the vegan donut?
Can you talk about one thing? I want to give an analogy to what you said, and then I want to ask you to elaborate on one more thing before we end.
Awesome.
The analogy is, if you bought a brand new car, would you want to put good gasoline in it or junky gasoline? You'd want to put good gasoline in it. So if you want to put good gasoline in your car, the food that you eat is the fuel for your body. Why would you want to put good fuel, better fuel in your car than you would put in your body?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point. And I don't have the exact statistics, so don't quote me exactly, anybody here, but your cells, your entire body turns over. And I think your cellular turnover rate is based on your age. Like there's a factor there, right? But I think it's like every 2 or 3 or 7 years, something like that, you have all new cells in your body. How
I think it's
amazing-
even quicker than that. But anyway, go
Okay.
ahead.
Well, maybe we'll link to it or something. But how amazing is that? That you actually, it's never too late, Stanley. That's the message I want to.
It's never too late until it's too late.
Okay.
I went to a funeral just last week from someone who had open heart surgery and didn't come home. 69 years old, open heart surgery, didn't come home.
Yeah.
And
we're going to talk.
When that happens, it's too late.
I agree, 100%. We're going to talk a lot about heart disease because there's so much we can do in our favor, specifically for heart disease. But go ahead, Stanley. Are you going to?
I want you to elaborate on one more thing.
Okay.
You didn't talk about. You did just very tangentially. Calories.
Mm-hmm.
Is it important to count calories if we want to eat healthy?
Not if you're eating whole plant foods. If you're eating whole plant foods, eat as much as you want. You're never going to be hungry in between meals. Think about it. It's very hard to overeat apples, broccoli, carrots, even potatoes. Have at it, people. The more color in what you're eating, the better. So I would select a purple potato over a white potato, a sweet yellow or orange potato over a white potato, a yellow potato over a white potato. But go for it, people. Whole plant foods, eat as much as you want and you will still lose weight. Can
we elaborate on that? I want to add something to what you just said and then we'll be done for today.
Yeah.
My experience has been that you can eat as much as you want as long as you're eating a varied diet. If you're not eating a varied diet and you're eating like for example, I like almonds.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to eat a pound of almonds and that's my food. I don't recommend that. But
no.
and I think you need to set a limit on something like that because they're very high in fat and things. But if you're eating a varied diet and the almonds are a part of what you're eating, like for example, when I make my chia pudding that I described, I throw almonds in there. I don't throw a pound of almonds in there. I throw a handful of almonds in there.
Yeah.
And then I eat as much of that as I want. And I don't count calories. I haven't counted calories in years.
Yeah.
And yet I lost over 200 something pounds and have kept it off. And I don't count calories.
Yeah.
And kind of interesting. We're going to do a whole nother show on that.
On this in particular. Yeah.
On that right there. Yes, definitely.
It's a great point because nuts are actually calorie dense and we will cover that in our next episode. Mm-hmm. Nuts and nut butter, caution.
Yes, I eat both of those every day, but I draw a limit.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Stanley Beat Obesity, and you can too. We're so grateful to have you with us on this journey toward better health, lasting change, and personal excellence. If you're ready to take the first step, or the next step, toward a healthier you, we invite you to join the 1 Million Pound Weight Loss Challenge today. This is your opportunity to be part of a growing movement that's transforming lives. One step, one choice, 1 pound at a time. Visit millionpoundweightlosschallenge.com to sign up. It's completely free, and your journey starts the moment you say yes to yourself. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and remember, if Stanley beat obesity, you can too.